You're on BYU Sports Nation with a Bryan takeover. Bryan Kehl and Brian Logan joining me on set here in Studio B. Download the show podcast
Little B.
on iTunes or subscribe to the RSS feed on BYUSportsNation.com. It's a BYU Hoops close to doubleheader, not quite a doubleheader according to our good friend Jerem Jordan, who is Mr. Technicality.
Right.
But there will be two games on BYUtv on Saturday. The women's team facing Colorado State 2 Eastern, noon Mountain Time, and the men's team will take on Hawaii at 6 Eastern, 4 Mountain at Energy Solutions Arena in Salt Lake City. We just got some breaking news across the college football world. Oregon State head coach Mike Riley is now the new head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers. BYU opens the season at Nebraska in Lincoln next season, so Mike Riley is the head coach there. And we were just talking about how a new coach automatically makes that game more winnable for a team like BYU. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? We'll start with Little B and then go to Big B and get his opinion.
Well, I mean, first thing is that when the head coach comes in, a new head coach comes in, usually he's going to bring his guys, right, his staff. So it's offensive coordinator, his defensive coordinator. And they're going to implement their systems and what they want to run. So offensively, if it's a different style, then all those kids have to adjust. If they've been in the system for, 3 years and it's their senior year, they have to adjust to a whole completely different scheme, and they don't have that much time, right? You only really have spring ball. They can watch film, not too much interaction, during winter conditioning. So you have spring ball, you have fall camp to get ready. So you're not getting those live reps. And same thing defensively as well. I think defensively it's a little bit more easier, but I do know that they run a 4-3. So if a defensive coordinator comes in with a 3-4, that might be a problem. Because a 3-4, that's when football gets real. When you run a 3-4 defense, it's a little bit tougher X's and O's and scheme to really grasp that.
I agree, 100%. Same point. So it really comes down to what he does. If he has a new staff, his own staff, different, that's what it comes down to. And especially, more so because it's week 1.
Yep.
If it were week 5 or especially week 10, it'd be a whole different story.
Yeah.
But because it's week 1, it's their first live bullets in whatever new systems they have. That gives us a huge advantage. Thank you, Nebraska.
Yes, thank you.
When I saw that they fired thank you. That made me I feel sorry for you, man. That's nobody likes getting fired, but thank you. You just helped us out. That's a tough game, and you just made it easier.
The only positive that I see is for the players, right? The starters want to keep their job. And then the younger guys or the second string, third string guys that really think that they should be playing, they're going to go, this is my opportunity. So I'm going to work hard. Yep. I'm going to train. I'm going to get faster, bigger, stronger. And so that's going to, just raise the level of competition throughout the whole team. So that's the only positive. But at the end of the day, you still have to know the scheme and what you're doing.
We need to maximize our time here with both of these Bryans. And Brian Logan, Little B, and I were discussing I love that it's become that.
Little B.
We're discussing the Power 5 parity that BYU Sports Nation wants to happen because there's this idea that if the Big 12 doesn't get a team into the college football playoff, that they will scramble a bit to expand and add 2 teams. And Bronco Mendenhall's made it very clear he would love to join the Big 12. I mean, what BYU fan wouldn't want to join a Power 5 conference like the Big 12 and have that kind of competition? So, Brian, do you feel like if the Big 12 doesn't get a team in this weekend, it will really have that much impact on BYU's chances of getting in?
I do. I don't know what their decision makers are thinking, but if they get snubbed, then they're going to go back to the drawing board, if you will. And they were at the drawing board a couple years ago when there was realignment. Things didn't work out, and they stayed and kept. But they used to have a championship game, right?
Yes.
And
when they had 12 teams.
Yep.
Yeah, and they lost that.
Yep.
So that kind of changed their thing. So now if they get snubbed, they have to. They have to at least go back to the drawing board. Does that mean we get in? Who knows? But they're at least we're on the table. So that's all you can really ask for.
I think I said this earlier this week on an interview. I got a lot of fans yelling at me and roasting me on Twitter. I had like 5,000 notifications every 2 seconds. I almost deleted my app. Gosh, I can't read good anyway. But what I had said, and this is my personal feeling, is I think it would be good for BYU to go back to the Mountain West. And I know some fans say it's a step down, but I just don't think that. I think BYU isn't in a place where it's a P5 school. and I'm talking more athletic-wise and talent. Now, one thing I want to say clear is that I think this team is one of the most talented teams under Coach Mendenhall. I remember, Brian, when I first met you, you said, "Man, you guys have way more talent."
And you were probably thinking,
and I was like, "What? You're in the NFL, man. What are you talking about?" And then I said the same thing when I came back and around the guys with Kyle and Cody. I'm like, "You guys are way more athletic." And Preston Hadley, he being a GA, he's saying the same thing. So you're starting to see this trend, right, of the athleticism increase. But to compete at that level, I think you do need a lot more of those 5-star guys.
Yep.
And the honor code obviously hurts you. And so I think going to the Boise State formula and the Boise State model, where you're above a Mountain West conference, but you're just right below a P5 conference, you maybe play one or two teams, one or two Power 5 teams in your non-conference schedule. Go into conference and just dominate everybody, right? The Hawaiis, the UNLVs. And then you have a New Year's Six invite, maybe potentially if the playoffs expand, you get an automatic bid to a playoff, whatever the case is. But I think that's an easy, successful formula, and Boise State has done that a number amount of times.
Yeah, that's a great argument. And here's the thing: I couldn't really attack that argument because it has a lot of valid points. I think. And you know what? I wasn't in the room when they made the decision to go independent, but I think the biggest reason was the exposure.
Access and exposure.
The exposure, this facility we're sitting in here and the ESPN deal that we have. And I think that was the biggest thing. I played on the Mountain Conference.
That's right.
It was terrible.
Hey, it was good for me. I was on HD. I came in on the HD days.
We didn't have
Mountain
HD.
HD.
Bro, our screen, because obviously I wasn't watching our own games, but I watched the other teams in conference games, like on Thursday or earlier on Saturday. It looked like a snowstorm out there.
Bad.
It was terrible. You couldn't see anything.
It was bad. Even with the HD, it was bad.
I've made this argument before, and I will argue this. Ziggy does not get drafted number 5 if we're not playing on ESPN.
You're right.
It doesn't happen.
No.
I don't care what anybody says. He didn't get drafted. This is what people don't understand. He didn't get drafted number 5 because he had a great season here.
Right.
He really didn't do that much. He flashed potential.
Yeah.
And he created this buzz.
Yep.
And then obviously he killed it at the Combine and killed it at the Senior Bowl and all those things. But it was that buzz, that hype that was created that if he's playing on the Mountain, that buzz and that hype doesn't happen.
That's a great point, because there's been the last few years, there's been a lot of guys that are getting invites to the Combine. When I was playing and looking back for you guys, there wasn't that many guys, especially defensively. Right. Exactly. My year there was zero. So, the ESPN definitely goes back to scouts being bored on a Thursday or Friday night when there's nothing else to do in the world. Sitting in their hotel room, prepping for their next game. Of course, I'm going to turn on the game and watch BYU and see.
They don't got the Mountain in their hotel room.
No, exactly.
The 140 pixels of the Mountain.
and I mean, that brings me to you bring it to a good point, which is getting guys to the NFL. I think that's how you overcome the honor code.
Yeah.
I mean, I think hands down, this is why fans, you keep Coach Mendenhall, because you have guys like myself that are 5'6" corners, JC transfers that he makes All-Americans.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so imagine what he has when he has 5-star guys. But at the end of the day, recruits want to hear, will I have an opportunity to play in the NFL?
Yeah.
And if I have an opportunity to play in the NFL, and if not, drinking or not smoking and doing the things I need to do to take care of my body is going to help me get there, and that's just part of the rules, well, sign me up, sir. I don't care. I don't care if I have to go to church or, sacrifice partying or whatever the case is.
I'll jump through those hoops.
Oh,
That's what they say.
Exactly. But it may be a different story if, okay, we want you to live a certain way, and you might go to the NFL. You might not.
It's a big hinge right there.
It is.
And there's a lot of kids sitting out there across the country who never would have seen BYU play or heard of them or anything like that. But now they've at least seen a game or heard, or they see Ziggy get drafted number 5. And you know what else helps us?
Kyle
is that Ziggy's killing it right now.
Exactly.
That's what really helps us too. He didn't just – I read something the other day. The first 12 picks of that draft, he's the only guy holding his weight right now.
Wow.
The only guy. The first 12 picks
I'm waiting
of the
for
draft.
Hollywood to make that movie. Like,
Seriously.
that has to be made
It's gotta
into
be.
a movie.
It has to be,
This is like The Blind Side, just this crazy story,
Independence certainly has some beneficial things that have happened for BYU on an individual basis. And for the Cougars, you look at next year's schedule. Playing in the Mountain West Conference, guess what? You're not opening up against Nebraska and UCLA and Michigan and getting a game at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City.
Bring it.
Okay, you're not doing that. And
right.
that is a benefit of being independent, is you can go out and create these schedules. And Bronco Mendenhall, here the quote is this, and he says, "I don't, in terms of talking about independence, I don't think it's sustainable. I think it's a place to be for now. I think BYU football is sustainable regardless of where. It just depends on what level we want to be sustainable at." Said that on his
Bronco.
weekly coach's show.
You see that's Bronco?
Couple
I said
weeks ago.
vintage Bronco.
What do you think about that?
I agree with that 100%.
It's a stepping stone.
This is not an ends. This is a means right now. This is just a way to get to where we want to go. And I think our hands were tied. As soon as Utah bounced, as soon as TCU bounced, I think our hands were tied. If we could have had Utah stay, TCU stay, add in Boise, we had a viable conference.
Yeah.
But when those guys took off and hightailed, it was like, okay, we can stay here with these po-diddlies. And Boise hadn't even come in yet. We could stay here and play on the mountain, or, we got this sweet, lucrative ESPN deal on the table. I mean, I agree with that 100%.
BYU right now in Independence, hoping for craziness within the Big 12 this weekend, that TCU or Baylor do not get in the college football playoff, and that there is now some more, I guess, clamoring and, rushing knee-jerk reaction to expand in the Big 12 Conference. Bryan, it has been outstanding to have you on set, man.
Yeah, I have one last thing that I wanted. I just thought of when you said that. As far as the selection committee, this is something to keep in mind. They have TCU however many spots ahead of Baylor right now.
Yep.
Why?
Baylor beat them head-to-head, right?
Yes, they have the same record, and Baylor won the head-to-head game. And I've read that there's all this, TCU's won more games against winning teams, and they beat Minnesota, and Baylor lost to West Virginia. I don't even know all their reasoning. But anyway, my whole point is the selection committee is obviously not just taking the team with the best record.
Right.
They're making calculated choices.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out, to keep that in mind. And as we put our karma into the universe,
Yes.
as we root for our states,
Yes.
as we put our karma into the universe, let's just keep that in mind, that the selection committee, they're kind of making some weird choices. So we got a chance, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Bryan, we would love it if you would sign our BYU Sports Nation Rise Up flag before you get out of here.
Make sure you put Big B on that one.
Big B. I will.
Bryan with the Y.
The Y guy.
The Bryan takeover did not disappoint thus far. Up